Welcome again to Joe Stunner Boxing. I hope you're enjoying your Easter. Conor Benn, there's been a few recent developments I thought we'd talk about regarding whether or not he's going to get licensed, whether or not he's going to fight again, and whether or not he's being blocked by various ruling bodies and their rankings. Well, we know about the WBC situation. They've reinstalled him as a 147 pounder in their rankings, but Ring Magazine, they've taken him out. They've removed him from their rankings, and people say, well, it's Ring Magazine, you know, who really cares? They don't really have any power. That's true. That's true. But at the same time, it's another thing that doesn't look good. And when you're talking about somebody's reputation, very often it's not just one fell swoop. It can be. I mean, suddenly everyone can turn against you. But I think Hearn and Ben and his team were probably hoping that by now the dust will have settled and people will have moved on. And the fact that, I mean, Ring Magazine is still quite a respected voice in boxing. The fact that they've said, no, we're not ranking you, it's a continuation of a problem that doesn't look like being solved anytime soon. So what happens with Ring Magazine is they have various members on a board. They come together, they discuss things, and, you know, they decide who's going to be ranked, who's going to be removed, and so on and so forth. Now, I'll read you a few little odds and sods from Ring Magazine's website, from the actual report. And it says there was a lengthy discussion by the ratings panel during a 7-week period, and Conor Benn's exit from the 147 pound rankings was the lengthiest discussion, as they put it. The subject of Benn's positive test for the banned substance clomiphene, which shelved in October showdown with Chris Eubank Jr., was brought up by Martin Mulcahy months ago. Mulcahy? Oh, that's not how you pronounce his name. The panel agreed to wait until Benn's case was brought before the British Boxing Board of Control, and details of the report were made public before deciding what to do with the undefeated welterweight. And then they mentioned the WBC reinstating Benn. But it says, Benn has not cooperated with the British Boxing Board of Control, which licenses British boxers. Benn relinquished his British boxing licence, intends to sue the board, and claims that VADA mishandled his tests, a claim the WBC does not back up. And then they talk about, this is from the transcript, some of the members of the panel talking. So Tom Gray, who's a member of the panel, said, I was recently quizzed on Conor Benn's current ranking. We were holding off until Benn's independent investigation was concluded. However, the results of this, 207, shouldn't that be 270 pages worth, still haven't been passed to the British Boxing Board of Control. The WBC's decision to re-rank Benn is irrelevant here. What everyone's take is on Benn right now and his current position is, the jury's out. Well, not really, but you know what I mean. And Tris Dixon, who you may know as one of the journalists who contributes to Boxing News. Am I right in saying he was the former editor? If not, but he certainly contributed for many years to Boxing News. He's a good journalist. He said, it seems Benn, will carry on regardless, and likely in a meaningless fight that won't alter his ranking. So it would be Eubank, Kell Brook, Manny Pacquiao even. And Dixon says, morally we should pull him until due process has been completed and made transparent. But if he carries on and we're none the wiser, who are we to take him out as he makes his way up the ladder, if and when he does? And I don't know. So Tris Dixon is sitting on the fence, and I don't agree with Dixon when he says that due process has not yet been completed. I think it has. I think it definitely has. The fact is that Benn was found. He failed 2 drug tests. He was found with very, very strong evidence that he cheated. You know, the 2 drug tests doesn't get much more ironclad than that. He said, well, I've proved that the results were erroneous. I've proved my innocence. I have it in this huge dossier. Can we have a look at it? No. Okay, well, then you're not innocent, are you? If you're in a court of law, well, I didn't do it. Can you prove it? Yes. Can we have a look at the evidence? No. Then you're guilty. Okay. Now, Adam Abramovitz, who was also on this Ring magazine panel, ratings panel, said, this is an opportunity to be on the right side of the issue. I'm not torn whatsoever. He should be removed. Okay. So, you know, they had a big discussion about it, and they tried to be fair to Ben, but you couldn't escape the fact that he has failed the 2 tests, that he won't hand over this dossier, and everything's a bit, you know, they were, like I say, they were trying to be objective, but sometimes you can be objective and all the evidence falls onto one side. So Ben is to be removed from the Ring magazine rankings. Now, the flip side of this is that, well, you could argue it doesn't actually matter what the Ring think. I get it. That's fair enough. But Eddie Hearn, The Guardian, reported that Hearn has approached numerous commissions in the US about the possibility of obtaining a boxing license for Conor Benn, even though investigations into the fighter's positive results for clomiphene in 2 separate tests last year remain incomplete. Again, incomplete because Ben and his team are not handing over the dossier, and Ben has refused to liaise with the British Boxing Board of Control. He's thrown his licence in. He said, I'm not interested, you get lost, but he expects to carry on, no questions asked. The British Boxing Board of Control, whether you like them or not, and God knows I've got enough criticisms of them, they are the board, the British Boxing Board of Control. Unless you believe in complete anarchy, in which you'd end up having, like you do in world boxing, 4, 5, 6, 7 different British ruling bodies, like we do all the alphabet soup lot, then you have to support the concept of a board. You have to support the concept of law and order. Okay, regardless of what your criticisms of the board are, and as I say, I have many. And Ben just hasn't gone for it. He's like, no, the hell with that. I'm a law unto myself. I'm my own man. I'll do what I want. Now, again, Hearn has been looking. Now, this, by the way, went back. This article was on the 1st of March, the one that I just quoted about Hearn looking for fishing for different with different commissions in the US, looking for one that's going to sanction Ben's fights. And so that's 5, 6, nearly 6 weeks ago. Since then, I'm not aware that he's found a single one that will agree. Now, he may have done. Perhaps I'm just not aware of it. Perhaps there have been subsequent revelations that I'm not aware of, or perhaps behind the scenes he is making progress. But the fact of the matter is that he's not finding it easy. And when you consider that the British Boxing Board of Control said to all the American commissions, do not sanction this guy, all right, don't sanction him. He's, as far as we're concerned, he's not playing ball with us. He's not revealed any evidence to refute the evidence that we have, which is the 2 failed tests. He's taken out illegal action against us. Fair enough, that's his right. But, don't sanction him until this is settled. Do not sanction him. It would seem to me, on the surface of it, and this is quite surprising to me, that a lot of the American commissions are saying, no, forget it. We're not interested in you, Ben. Go away. We're with the board. And I think, now maybe I'm being a cynical old sausage here, I think this is because Conor Benn in America is not a big name. He's known in the boxing community. He's an up-and-coming welter. But when you consider you've got top of the tree, you've got Spence and Crawford, and then you've got people like Boots Ennis and a few other Americans coming up, Ben is far down the pecking order. So if he was a big cash cow, the American commissions would probably say, okay, we'll overlook the failed test. Yeah, you can have a license. But Ben doesn't have a lot of swing power. He doesn't have a lot of weight to throw around in America because he's not that well known. He's not that highly ranked. And I think this is another mistake he and his team have made, is that they thought, hey, we'll go to America, we'll get a license. Maybe you will. Maybe at some point he will fight over there. But the fact is his name remains tarnished and he doesn't have the power that he seemed to think he did. Everything about Ben, since this whole news broke, it smacks of this entitled, little prick who feels he's a law unto himself, doesn't have to answer to anyone. I failed a couple of tests, like rubbish. I'm not going to show you any evidence. I've got the evidence, I'm not showing it to you. Well, piss off then. If you're not going to, apart from anything else, never mind the commissioners, what about the fans? What about the people that pay your wages? We want to know, if you've got evidence, what it is. And if you swan around, like some wannabe tough guy, some wannabe gangster, just claiming that, I'm innocent because I say so, that's not good enough. Life don't work like that. Maybe you've been mollycoddled. I don't mean physically. I don't, he's a fighter. He gets in the ring. He's got bottle in that sense. But out of the ring, maybe you've been mollycoddled to the point where you think that, everyone has to roll over for you. I've got news for you. They don't. They don't. So Ben needs to, take his head out of his backside and breathe some real air. Otherwise his career this is going to just drag on, and various journalists, commissions, his peers, the fans, they're all going to say, oh yeah, Conor Benn, the man who failed 2 drugs tests. The dust is not settling how he thought it would and how Hearn thought it would. And it will be very interesting when Hearn does find someone who licenses him, and he will. Very interesting to see what the reaction is of the fans. And how whatever platform, DAZN I presume, how they're going to try and spin it. And what the people, the former fighters on the DAZN, who are commentating on the DAZN platform, how they're going to react to having a proven drug cheat, or a guy who's failed 2 drug tests, because it is feasible that Ben didn't know it was in his system. It's feasible. I'm not saying I believe it, but it's feasible. But how are they going to react when a guy who's failed 2 drug tests gets in the ring and fights for serious money against, for all we know, maybe a world title even further down the line? Ben's 26. There are plenty of years to go yet. So I think the whole thing continues to be a farce. What do you think? Leave your comments below. I think I've made it clear over the string of videos I've made where I stand on this, but you let me know what you think. And yeah, be good. Spread the word about Joe Stunner Boxing. Hit the like button, subscribe button if you could. That would help us a lot. I'll see you soon. Bye for now.